My name is Kristen Lamb, and I'm a breakthrough performance coach, and I've got the pleasure of speaking with Rob Malionek today. How are you, Rob?
I'm good. Thanks, Kristen. How about you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I want to thank you for taking the time to chat today. I really appreciate it. Rob is a breakthrough athlete. He's coached by Jeffrey Capabianco, and he just finished Ironman Florida on Saturday. Huge, huge congratulations to you, Rob.
Yeah, thank you. That was really, really fun. I
I
had my whole family there, and it was great.
Awesome. Rob finished the race, the grueling race, in a time of 11 hours, 6 minutes, and 59 seconds. That time is quite impressive, but when you learn about Rob's story, it's downright inspiring and nothing short of amazing. For those of you who don't know, Rob has battled testicular cancer and is dealing with psoriatic arthritis. He's been dealing with this over the course of his journey to becoming an Ironman. How many Ironmans actually have you done, Rob?
I guess three and a half,
Three.
because I did Lake Placid would have been my third one this past year, doing Lake Placid three times, but I couldn't do the whole thing, partly just because of, all the health issues. So I went in planning to do all of it but the run.
Yep.
Did a little bit of run anyway, and so Florida, was the full one. That was my makeup race to make sure that I do a full one this year. So three and a half, I guess.
Awesome. Why don't we start by, why don't you give us a little bit of background on your medical history, kind of get into the details of when you were diagnosed, kind of how this affects your day-to-day living, maybe talk about some side effects that you deal with each and every day.
Yeah, sure. So it was, I remember really well, both things actually. For the psoriatic arthritis, it was just a couple years out of college, right after law school actually. My wife Jessica and I, we just got married, and we moved out to Santa Barbara. I took a job with a judge out there, and that was our honeymoon year. It was supposed to be, just a great time for a
Nice.
year, and then I was going to start with a law firm in LA, and I'm with that same law firm today.
Mm.
And as soon as we moved to Santa Barbara, sort of the strangest things started happening. I just started having this swelling and a lot of pain in my joints. My hands swelled up like balloons. My feet, same thing. My shoulders, I could hardly move. I couldn't dress myself anymore. I couldn't type. I couldn't carry a briefcase. It was just, it was sudden, and it was pretty extreme, and it was kind of scary.
Oh, I bet.
And we spent a long time working with a lot of doctors who were just stumped. They didn't know what it was. I didn't have a history of psoriasis, so they thought maybe it was some kind of arthritis, but they weren't sure what. And then they finally settled on it and said, no, it's got to be psoriatic arthritis. I said, it doesn't make any sense. I don't have psoriasis. And I called my parents, and they said, well, actually, you were born with psoriasis, and then it went away. So you have it, and this is just something that it affects a small percentage of people who have psoriasis. Some people have the skin disease. I don't really have that, but I do have my body, just sort of attacks attacks my joints. And it took years to get it under control, trying to find the right combination of meds, and finally got into after we lived in Santa Barbara, had moved to LA, I got into a clinical trial for some experimental drugs, and one of them, Enbrel, which was not approved yet, was something that, and was not even on the market for psoriatic arthritis, is something that worked well, although intermittently.
Yep.
And I went on that and a variety of other drugs over the years, and went up and down for many, many years. And I had always been an athlete. Actually, I knew Jeff in college. We both rode together. We were on the same crew boat, and it was just my life had changed from the arthritis. I couldn't push myself the way that I used to push myself. I couldn't do the things I wanted to do. But it was, with the right medication, a lot of the time it was under control. I'd go through flare-ups, but then it would get back under control. And then, in September 2011, I was diagnosed with testicular cancer, and that rocked me and my family.
I can only imagine.
Jessica and I, and they were just, Zoe was old enough that she really got it, and it was tough, very, very tough for her to think that her daddy has some kind of cancer, and she was very scared. We were all scared about it. I took some time off from work. It ended up being okay. I have great doctors. We live in New York now. I go to Memorial Sloan Kettering. They've been fantastic, and I've been under surveillance, for 4 years now. But the hardest part about the the cancer diagnosis, which then was followed quickly on the heels of my having some precancerous moles removed from my back. So, the early stages of skin cancer. When you combine those things, apparently testicular cancer and skin cancer have some relationship. It means that you can't go on certain kinds of medications, and I had to go off of the kinds of medications that were helping for the psoriatic arthritis. So that really set me on the wrong path.
So
starting from that.
At the time that you were diagnosed with testicular cancer, was the psoriatic arthritis kind of a little bit under control with the drug that you were on at the time?
Yeah. So I had, it was a combination of a few different drugs, and they more or less worked well. I'd go through flare-ups, so there would be days or weeks where I'd have the same kind of swelling in my hands or my feet. I would always go through a good amount of pain every day in my joints, my shoulders, my knees. But the swelling was mainly under control. And if that was under control, then I could get by and do a lot of the things that I wanted to do. Not everything, but I could do a lot of things.
Yep.
But then the cancer changed.
Right. Wow. It's quite a load. So today the cancer is in remission, from what I understand, but you're still dealing with the arthritis piece of the puzzle. So yeah, talk to me now. So the side effects, I'm assuming, are still the same. The hands, the feet, the shoulders. It comes in waves. You don't really know when it's going to flare up. How do you go about training for an Ironman, especially when you get into those big volume weeks? You have those critical workouts. What do you do?
Some of it is a little bit of luck.
Yeah.
And you hope that the flare-ups don't hit at the wrong time, but I'm still learning exactly how to have the right balance. But there's definitely a place where I'll hit a little bit too much in terms of the stress on my body, and I need to taper back a little bit if I'm starting to get into those heavy weeks, and I feel a flare up coming on, or it starts to hit. I need to be able to taper it back, and it really is. It's like an art form, I think. And Jeff has been great about working with me, as a special case, to try to make sure that he gets me to he trains me the right way, but doesn't overtrain me, because he knows if you're trying to put the right amount of stress on my body, that stress that comes from the arthritic pain and the swelling, that's, you have to add that to the mix.
Absolutely.
And so you have to be able to taper it back a little bit. So it's tough trying to find that balance. There are a lot of days when when literally I can't get out of bed, and just can't do anything. And look, I chalk that up to a day where I need to do a little bit of recovery, and then the next day try to make it up, and try to do what I can.
Right, absolutely. I just keep thinking most people that would be in your situation, I would say, would just throw in the towel, let alone here you are training for an Ironman, just such a grueling endurance event. What motivates you to keep competing at this level?
I really feel like I have to do it. When I thing. It's devastating news. It was also, in some ways, it was a blessing. People say this, but in some ways, it really was a wake-up call to try to appreciate what I do have.
Mm-hmm.
I have a great family. I have a body that in many ways works pretty well. It just doesn't do all the things that I want it to be able to do, and I want to be able to take advantage of what I can do with it. And I just don't want it. I don't want the arthritis. I don't want the cancer. I don't want any of those things to keep me down.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to do it. And when things were really going poorly, and they were actually starting last November, things were really not going well with my medication. I was starting to take a lot of prednisone, a lot of steroid, and that's been going up and up and up, and that's been bad news in many ways, to be able to have to get your body addicted on a steroid.
Right.
And I, as the wheels were kind of coming off, I just knew, look, I've got to be able to keep doing this. If I don't keep moving, if I don't have these goals, if I can't do this, if I can't line up and feel like I'm going to be able to do well at something, even if it's extreme like this, and sometimes my doctors do look at me like I'm crazy for wanting to do this, but I know that I have to. I got to keep doing it. I got to keep moving. If I don't, then I feel like, those things win.
Right, exactly. Well, you sure do have a great attitude. It's definitely inspiring. I'm assuming, and I know because I know your family, I'm assuming that their support means the world to you, and I know that they're all involved. Can you just talk a little bit about your family, what they see you going through this, and how you guys kind of all make this work together as a unit?
Yeah, well, that's also something we're all still working on, because having my wife does, my wife Jessica is, she's just the best.
Absolutely.
She started doing triathlons before me. I mean, you know her; she's awesome.
She is awesome.
I got to try to keep up with her, and she started doing triathlons. She did Lake Placid in 2011, and that was about a month and a half before I was diagnosed with cancer. And I was there. I was her support with the kids as she was doing it, and it was awesome. At that point, I knew I wanted to do that with her, and I had health issues. I didn't even have them all
right.
at the time, but I just wanted to be able to do that with her. And there's something about going through, Ironman training together, the two of us.
Yeah.
It's our date night. Over the winter on our trainers, on our bikes, for 4 hours or 5 hours at a time. That's our date. And tough sometimes to have us do that.
Yeah, sorry, keep going.
No. It's tough on the kids sometimes, but they see us do. When my kids saw me finish down in Florida,
yep.
They were emotional wrecks. They were bawling their eyes out. I was bawling my eyes out. We all were. There's something about that, that I think as a parent, it's as hard as it is to be away from them for all the training.
Right.
It's also good for them to see their mom and their dad do these kinds of things.
Absolutely.
And for us, it's just stuff that we feel like we have to do. We can do it. We should do it. And that hopefully rubs off on them, hopefully in the right way.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think you're teaching your kids such a valuable lesson. Just your hard work, determination, never giving up, positive thinking, believing in yourself. I mean, if your kids pick up any little piece of what you have, they're going to be very successful in life. There's no doubt about it in my mind. Back to another question. So, and you kind of touched on this a little bit before, but Ironman Florida, why did you, why did you choose this race opposed to maybe another race? Was it the time of year? Was it the climate? Obviously, I know you wanted a little redemption from not feeling great in Lake Placid. But if you could just expand on that a little bit, why Ironman Florida?
Yeah, so I picked it with Jeff. I mean, we really looked at the calendar as we were getting close to Lake Placid, and I was dealing with a lot of the health issues. I had shin splints. My bones were breaking from the prednisone. I mean, I was having a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew I wasn't going to be able to get the volume I needed to finish up all the training for Lake Placid. This was May. It was just a couple months before the race. So we sat down together. We looked at the calendar for other Ironman races. There was Cozumel,
Mm-hmm.
towards the end of the year. There was Florida. Florida seemed more doable, that it'd be easier in some ways. I wouldn't, in some ways, even think about doing it if it's something that my family couldn't come down and be part of. And we figured that we could work that out timing-wise and logistically so that it wouldn't be too difficult for Rudy to be able to come down early November. Seemed like, the climate would be good. It's generally supposed to be a flat course, fairly warm, but definitely not over the top, not hot, but,
right.
Warm. The water's cool enough that it's usually, I think it's always been a wetsuit swim. It seemed like the right thing and the right timing because, here we were around July with Lake Placid, knowing I wasn't where I needed to be. And, Jeff looked at the calendar and what you need for a training plan. And this seemed to be about the right time. It gave me enough of a runway to be able to get prepared for it.
Awesome. Cool. Very good. Kind of switching gears again. I'm just curious, is there any particular discipline, the swim, bike, or run, that irritates your condition more than another? Or does it really depend on the day? It
does. It depends on the day. I mean, there are some times when I have a really hard time being in the bike position for that long because of the arthritis, which is it's in my back, it's all through my spine, it's in my neck. I actually got this was a kind of a nice treat, but I got electronic shifting because it was just too hard to do the shifting with my hands and my wrists. If I had a flare, forget it. I mean, I just couldn't do it, and it's too hard.
Right.
The shift, so that can be tough at times. The run takes its toll, obviously, on anybody. With your knees and your feet, your ankles. But for me, it can be hard. And the swim too. I mean, when I first got the arthritis, one of the first things I had shoulder swelling that was so bad I needed to get a lot of cortisone shots just to keep it down. And so the swimming was it has been something that's been tough to do.
Right.
And I'm not a great swimmer anyway, but I get through it.
Right, definitely. Let's move on to the race itself. Let's start with the swim. So from speaking to you a little bit before the race, and as you just stated, that usually it's a wetsuit legal swim, but when you arrived, you found out that it was wetsuit optional. How did you handle this stress on top of all the other stuff that you're worrying about on race day?
Yeah, I cried for a while.
I don't blame you.
I'm not the swim is not, it's certainly not my strength. So I, the thought of doing one without the wetsuit, it's tough. But look, I was going to be there. It was what it was. The weather was, it was just extremely hot. High 80s, 90s each day. I got down there a few days early, and it was like record highs. They just hadn't seen things like this before, and the water temperature was going up and up. And I just said, all right, it is what it is.
What was the water temperature?
It ends up being 77, I think 0.2 or something like that. And it had started off at the beginning of the week, it was something like 72 or 3. Mm-hmm. And then it just kept going, up and up and up, until it was just, past being a wetsuit legal swim. And I went down to the expo to go get myself a swim, skin suit. and there had been a run on them, so they didn't even have exactly my size to buy. But I got like the very last one there and squeezed myself into it.
Very nice. Awesome. So what were the conditions like? I mean, I've seen video of the swim at this race, and those swells scared the heck out of me. And you say that, the swim isn't your strength of the three. How were you feeling when you got into that water?
I felt lucky that we had spent enough time in Southern California that I learned how to surf and, do something about being in waves like that, because it was a little bit scary. It's definitely not like, doing like Placid, which is all I know.
Right, yeah.
Other than this. Mm-hmm. So that was a little bit scary. And it was scary for my kids because they were there on the shore watching the rescue squads go out and pull people out of the water because of near drowning.
Oh my God.
From the race. I don't mean to scare people, but I mean, seriously, it was scary. It was scary for the kids to see that.
Yeah.
And on top of that, there was a red tide. So a lot of people, myself included, I had gotten in the water for a couple days beforehand, and you can't make it through even a quick swim without wheezing and coughing and gagging, and some people had to pull out of the race just because they were coughing so hard from the red tide. I mean, it was definitely challenging.
Yeah, wow. It's impressive. So you get out of the water, you enter T1. What are your thoughts? Are you constantly just like evaluating your mental condition, or the endorphins kicking in and you're not even thinking about what's going on? I mean, what's going on in your head in T1?
Yeah, I looked at my watch as soon as I got out of the water, and I guess what I'm used to is somewhere in the 115 range, for a swim. 112, I think, is my best, and I think, it's gone to like 117 or something like that. So I looked down at my watch and it said 128, and I thought, boy, this is, hopefully this isn't just a bad sign that it's not going to go well today, but, again, it is what it is, and everybody's dealing with the same things.
Exactly.
And, I looked at times afterwards and thought, that's actually comparatively, that's kind of right where it should have been.
Yeah.
And I think for me, just given the day, given the conditions, everybody seemed much slower, not wetsuit, and the waves were just crazy.
Wow.
So I, tried to shake that off. I don't think that I'm really thinking about much going through.
Yeah.
I'm probably thinking about, where's my next gel going to come from, and how quickly can I get my bike shoes on, and, I hope I don't forget things. The very first triathlon I ever did, I did the whole bike with my swim goggles, still around my neck. So
I love it. I love it.
Not doing things like that.
Exactly.
So I'm not thinking about it too much. I mean, my arthritis has been pretty bad lately, so I'm definitely feeling it. But you block it out just to get on, get ready to go. I remember Jeff, as he said before, when you're done with the swim, at least for him, you're done with the swim and you just can't wait to get on the bike. And then by the time the bike's over, you can't wait to get on the run.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel, is I just couldn't wait to switch and get on the bike.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the bike. You had a great bike, 5 hours, 12 minutes, 19 seconds. Talk to us a little bit about the bike course. From what I hear, it's pretty flat. How was it? What's your perspective on the bike course?
Yeah, it's extremely flat, which is, it's funny because I was really looking forward to that. I live in New York where we are. There are a ton of hills around. It's hard to even find a stretch of road that's flat for a couple miles to be able to do some training to get ready for this. I mean, other than being on the trainer, there's really nothing to match it around here.
Right.
So I was looking forward to that. You hear that it's fast, it's flat. It is very flat. It's actually, kind of tough because you don't get a break.
Right.
There are no hills to break it up and sit up a little bit, just stretch out your back and your neck and kind of grind it out a little bit with a lower cadence, which sometimes feels kind of nice.
Right, absolutely.
Here, there's not being completely aero, riding at 90 RPM for the entire race.
Right.
And it was fast. It felt really good, but it was challenging. It was tough. I mean, you're out there. The roads are pristine. They're completely flat, and I think the highest elevation was 130 or 40 feet, something like that.
Wow, what a difference from Lake Placid.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I would think that bike course would be particularly hard for you based on the condition you described about the arthritis in your back and your neck and just having to be aero the whole time and not being able to take those breaks. But, by the looks of your numbers, you obviously made it happen out there, which is great. Moving on to the run. I mean, I know, speaking for myself, when I get off the bike after 112 miles, talk about stiff and wondering how the heck am I going to run a marathon, and I'm not even dealing with severe joint pain. I can't even imagine what must be going through your mind. I mean, maybe it's what you said, what Jeff reiterates, I just can't wait to get off the bike and run a marathon. But, how are you when you get off that bike? Are you, I mean, when I've gotten off the bike, the few times that I've done Ironman, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. And I always do. Talk to me about that feeling of.
Yeah, it's sort of a good question. I mean, I don't know. I think I really am thinking, all right, it's going to feel really good to be upright, for at least a period of time. And I just don't know how it's going to go. So I started out on the run, and I got right into my endurance pace, and it didn't feel tough at all.
That's awesome.
To just move into getting into the right cadence and all of that felt pretty good. But then it got, and again, the run is flat, just like the bike course is.
Right.
But then the heat really set in, and it was overwhelming. And I had done, I thought, a fair amount of heat, training to get ready for the race, but not thinking that it was going to be this hot. I mean, it got into the 90s. Luckily, was mostly overcast. I got scorched on my hands and my shoulders. The only parts that weren't completely covered. In my knees, my lower legs. But luckily, it wasn't bright sunny out and even hotter than it was. I just couldn't stay cool enough.
Yeah.
I couldn't throw enough water or ice on me throughout the entire race to be able to just stay in the right, temperature and keep going at the same pace. So I just, I kept slowing down, and I just thought, I was thinking to myself, look, this is just a day where I've got to suffer.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we do in Ironman. We suffer. We know it's going to hurt. But we do it by choice because I think we know the reward at the end is so big. I know I've touched on this a few times already, but I'm just really, it's hard for me to fathom all the pain that we have to endure on that day. And on top of it, you're dealing with more pain that a lot of us won't ever know. Again, just that inspiration that, you have to keep going and pushing to new levels. It's just, it's really, really remarkable. Do you have any strategies that you use when, this pain comes on to kind of mentally get through a race like an Ironman?
What I did this race is I just kept saying to myself, just be in the moment, and I kept saying that again and again and again. That was, like my mantra is, look, I'm in mile 21 and it sucks and it hurts and I want it to end, and I want to get through this, but look, I've got to get through mile 21 and I've got to enjoy what it is and enjoy part of that pain because I've got to get through it. It's not like there's a way around it.
Right.
I have to just get through it and move on. And, being in the moment, it helps actually to just kind of smile a little bit. As much as it hurts and as much as I felt like I was seeing double, to try to smile and just kind of take it in and say, as you just said, look, there's such a reward at the end of this, and I want to get to that place, and I don't want to get to that place and feel like I quit or I failed or I let the pain get the better of me or anything like that. So I'm not going to let it. Right. I'm going to get to that place and I'm going to feel good about it.
Awesome. Great attitude again. Talk to me about just that feeling of crossing the finish line and seeing your family there waiting for you. What did that feel like?
We all bawled our eyes out. I mean, it was unbelievable. I crossed the finish line, and literally for miles, all I'd been thinking about was, as soon as I cross the finish line, I know I'm going to collapse. I know I will have nothing left in me, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, I collapsed. People had to help me, over to a chair and sit me down, and Jessica was there. They were able to come right in to the finishers area there, and my kids were, Zoe, Brayden, Elias. They just, they jumped on me, and that felt good. And
I bet.
And we all just hugged each other and just started to cry. They knew how much it meant to me, and I think it was just pretty cool for them to be able to see it. That was awesome. I mean, I will never forget that. I saw a picture. Somebody took a picture of us afterwards, and I couldn't believe, the smile on my face, of all of us together there hugging. I mean, I was in so much pain, but I don't think I've, felt happier. I mean, it's just a great thing.
It's awesome. What an amazing accomplishment, Rob. Would you recommend Ironman Florida to other athletes?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Once I needed it, I needed a couple days probably to get some perspective
right
on it, because you get through the pain and the recovery and all of that. And look, it was great. I thought that the everything about it, as much as I had planned, all right, this is how the swim is supposed to be, and the bike is going to be fast and flat, and the run is going to be the same thing. Conditions are whatever they're going to be. And I've learned that enough from doing Lake Placid a few times that you just have no idea what it's going to be like. And it's the same thing down there, it seems. But the crowds are great. The people there are really friendly. It is, so you get that same kind of feeling, that euphoric feeling as you're going through, especially on the run. There's a lot of people out there just cheering you on. And, I thought that the conditions were hard, but, that there's something fun in that too, just to be able to go through something like that.
Absolutely. Well, I hope you're planning to take some well-deserved rest. What are your plans for the off-season and possibly next season?
I looked at my Training Peaks plan, and it just says recovery day, recovery day, recovery day for, several days in a row. So
as it should.
I'm definitely taking advantage of that. And now I'm sort of, look, it's Tuesday. It's just been a few days, and I'm already at the place where I'm thinking, man, I want to start, moving again. I have a really hard time with stopping cold turkey and doing nothing. I know I need to get a break, but man, I love doing it. Like I said, I do feel like with my arthritis, with all the stuff that I'm going through, moving, pushing myself, that helps. It really does. So I can't wait kind of to get back into it. I'll take the break. It'll be really good, and to have more time on my hands to be able to do some other things and, play some games and hang out with, my family. But next year, I'm signed up for Lake Placid again. Jess is doing Texas. I'd love to be able to look at, some other things and think about what else to do. I'm just excited to think about it and plan it out and hopefully, do some new things.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Well, Rob, I really want to thank you again for, taking the time to share your story with us. I really mean this. We can all learn a lot from your strength, determination, and motivation. Congrats again on an amazing day in Florida. Really, really psyched for you. You killed it out there, and you should feel really proud.
Thank you. I really, coming from you, that's pretty awesome. Thank you.
Thanks again, Rob.